Some buildings are just bricks and stone, but some, remember, in downtown Los Angeles, hidden behind cracked windows and faded paint, stands a hotel where nightmares have checked in, but never checked out. This is the story of a girl named Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old student who vanished inside a hotel full of death, darkness, and secrets. What happened to her has haunted the world for over a decade. A mystery caught on camera, a body found where no one could explain, and a question that still echoes in the halls of the Cecil Hotel. Was it madness? Was it murder? Or was it something far more terrifying? In the heart of Los Angeles, where dreams shimmer behind the glass of skyscrapers and sirens wail like broken lullabies, stands a building that never sleeps. Not because it is alive with energy or because it hums with life, but because it remembers. It remembers every scream, every drop of blood, every whisper of desperation that has echoed through its narrow hallways. This is the Cecil Hotel, a place more infamous than haunted, more cursed than forgotten, and more real than most ghost stories dare to be. The Cecil wasn't always like this. When it first opened in 1927, it was meant to be a marvel, a grand hotel for business travelers and tourists alike. The lobby was lined with marble columns, high-arched ceilings, and golden chandeliers that sparkled like promise. But the glory didn't last. The Great Depression choked the city, and as time crawled forward, downtown Los Angeles began to rot. The glitter of Hollywood never reached the Cecil's corner of the city again. The luxury faded, the velvet wore thin, and darkness moved in. By the 1960s, the hotel was nicknamed the Suicide by locals. Guests jumped from upper floors so often that it became part of the building's legend. There were stabbings, murders, addicts who disappeared without a trace, prostitutes who walked in but never came back out. The Cecil became a kind of black hole, the kind you don't see until it's already pulled you in. January 2013, Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old student from Vancouver, stepped through the Cecil's rusted entrance for the very first time. She had no idea what the building held inside it. Or maybe she did. She was a curious soul, the kind of person who looked into things most people tried to forget. Her Tumblr blog was full of fragments, poetry, fashion, emotions she didn't know where else to put. She struggled with bipolar disorder, something she was open about, and this solo trip to California was her way of reclaiming some freedom, some peace of mind, personal adventure. She'd visited San Diego, Santa Cruz, and now she was in LA, the city of angels, staying in a place better known for devils. At first, nothing seemed wrong. She checked into a shared room on the 5th floor, but within a few days, the other women she bunked with complained about her behavior. She had been acting strangely, they said, leaving odd notes, locking herself in the bathroom, talking to no one. Management moved her to a room by herself. She continued to update her Tumblr. She wandered the city. She shopped for books. She took photos on the roof of nearby buildings, but something had shifted. Her posts grew more erratic. Then they stopped. On January 31st, she was supposed to check out and head to Santa Cruz. She never did. Her family, who spoke with her every day, stopped hearing from her. They contacted LAPD. Flyers went up all over the city, and when detectives arrived at the Cecil to investigate, it was as if she had simply vanished, like the dozens before her. They searched the building. Her belongings were still in her room. Her clothes, her laptop, her wallet, but no Elisa, no trace of where she had gone, and no signs of a struggle. It was like the hotel had absorbed her. On February 13th, the LAPD released a surveillance clip from the hotel elevator. It was their last known sighting of her. The footage went viral almost instantly, not because it was dramatic, but because it was disturbing in a way no one could quite explain. In the video, Elisa steps into the elevator. She presses multiple floor buttons. She steps to the corner. The door doesn't close. She peeks out like she's watching for someone, then hides. Her hands move in jerky, unnatural ways. She gestures as if she's arguing with someone. Her expression shifts from fear to confusion to calm, but there's no one else visible in the video. Then she steps out of the elevator and vanishes from view. The doors close, and that was it. The world watched the video over and over again. Millions of people dissected her every move. Was she hiding from someone? Having a psychotic break? Was it drugs? A spirit? Theories flooded Reddit, YouTube, forums across the globe. But none of them explained what happened next. For 2 weeks after the video was released, there was still no sign of her. Until the guests at the Cecil started complaining about the water. It tasted off. It was dark, sometimes black, sometimes foul-smelling. Maintenance was sent to check the hotel's 4 rooftop water tanks, large sealed reservoirs that supplied water to the rooms below. What the worker found would become the stuff of nightmares. In one of the tanks, floating naked and face up just beneath the surface, was Elisa Lam. Her clothes were found beside her, waterlogged, folded loosely as if she had undressed herself. Her phone was never recovered. The tank lid, which was heavy and difficult to close, was shut. The only way to the rooftop was through a locked door, an alarmed door, but no alarm had gone off. No one had seen her climb the tank. No camera showed her going up the stairs. The ladders on the tanks had no signs of struggle or blood. The autopsy later ruled her death an accidental drowning, citing her bipolar disorder as a contributing factor. But her parents didn't buy it, and neither did half the world. The questions were too many. How did she get to the roof? How did she open the tank and close it behind her? Why was she naked? If it was a psychotic episode, why did the elevator seem to malfunction during the video? Why did it look like she was speaking to something invisible? And why had her Tumblr continued to post updates after her death? The Cecil Hotel gave no answers. It never does. Instead, it whispered old stories of other women who never left, of men who brought murder in their suitcases, of ghosts seen walking the hallways, bleeding from invisible wounds, and of the Night Stalker. Yes, Richard Ramirez, the man who terrorized California in the 1980s with his satanic killings, stayed at the Cecil during his murder spree. He lived on the 14th floor. No one noticed the blood on his clothes. No one asked questions. He would return to his room barefoot after beating, torturing, and killing strangers, and the hotel, as in its cold, quiet way, welcomed him home. And then there was Jack Unterweger, an Austrian writer and convicted killer who came to the US, supposedly reformed. He stayed at the Cecil in 1991. He wrote about LA crime, interviewed police, and murdered 3 women while staying at the hotel. He strangled them with their own bras, just like he had done years earlier in Europe. He was eventually caught and hanged himself in prison. The Cecil had been home to so many tragedies it's impossible to count them all. Over 16 confirmed suicides, multiple murders, overdoses, disappearances, and an energy so thick that even guests who knew nothing of its history often reported hearing screams, whispers, footsteps in empty halls, and somehow Elisa Lam became part of it all. The discovery of Elisa Lam's body in the rooftop water tank sent shockwaves across the world. News reporters surrounded the Cecil Hotel. Tourists stopped to stare. Police sealed off the rooftop. The guests, horrified at what they had unknowingly consumed for days, fled the hotel. It wasn't just the fact that a young woman had died, it was how she had been found. Naked, alone. In a sealed container atop a building only accessible through locked, alarmed doors. The tank was tall, nearly 10 feet high, and heavy-lidded. There was no ladder inside, no evidence of a struggle, no trauma on her body. Her clothes, the same ones from the elevator video, were floating nearby. But there were no bruises, no signs of sexual assault, no defensive wounds, just waterlogged silence. The autopsy ruled her death accidental. The toxicology report showed only small amounts of prescription medications consistent with her bipolar treatment. No illicit drugs, no alcohol. The coroner made note of Elisa's mental health history, prior episodes, moments of instability, and concluded that she had likely experienced a manic or psychotic episode, climbed the tank and drowned. That was the official line, but it didn't make sense to anyone who looked closer. If she had suffered a psychotic break, how did she know how to access the roof? Why was the hotel's alarm system, designed to alert staff of rooftop entry, never triggered? Why did she seem so lucid just hours before in social media posts? And why was she naked? Hypothermia can explain the removal of clothes in extreme cases, but the weather was mild, and even more unsettling, that no one saw her go to the roof. No one heard a thing. For a hotel full of people, it remained eerily quiet in the moments that mattered most. Then there was the elevator video, that 2.5-minute grainy horror show that refused to leave people's minds. Some claimed she was talking to someone, or something, outside the elevator. Others believed she was reenacting a ritual from Korean or Chinese urban legends, like the elevator game, where pressing buttons in a specific sequence is said to summon spirits or open doorways to another dimension. It sounded ridiculous until you watched the video and noticed the elevator's refusal to close its doors. Until you saw the way she moved, almost in rhythm, like she wasn't entirely in control. Until you saw her eyes flicker with something between fear and surrender. Online forums went into a frenzy. Paranormal investigators took an interest. Reddit threads turned into archives. YouTubers made frame-by-frame analyses. Some theorized that she had been murdered, that someone was waiting outside the elevator and edited out of the video. Others swore it was demonic possession, that the Cecil itself had absorbed her spirit. Then came the stories of the hotel's past, the suicides, the overdoses, the killers who called it home. And suddenly, Elisa Lam wasn't just a missing person anymore. She was part of something much larger, something darker, something centuries old. The deeper people dug into the hotel, the stranger it became. Stories surfaced from decades past, of guests waking up to find someone standing at the foot of their bed, of screams echoing through empty hallways, of shadows moving without source. One man reported that he felt followed the entire time he stayed there, as though something clung to his back, whispering into his ear. Staff members admitted they avoided certain rooms. Maintenance workers refused to go to certain floors after dark. They spoke of flickering lights, malfunctioning phones, TVs that turned on by themselves. And then there were the deaths. So many deaths. It started in the 1930s with suicides. Guests leaping from upper floors, crashing onto the sidewalk below. In 1947, a woman named Elizabeth Short, better known as the Black Dahlia, was allegedly last seen drinking at the Cecil's bar days before her mutilated body was found in a nearby field. While that link has never been confirmed, the association stuck. In 1962, a woman leapt from a window and landed on a man walking below, killing them both instantly. In 1985, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, made the Cecil his home. He stayed in a 14-a-night room on the 14th floor. Fresh from murder, he would toss his blood-soaked clothes in the hotel dumpster and walk barefoot up to his room, unnoticed. Ramirez was a self-proclaimed Satanist. He carved pentagrams into his victims, and the Cecil welcomed him like family. Years later, another killer followed the same path. Jack Unterweger, an Austrian journalist who had been convicted of murdering women in Europe, claimed he had reformed. He came to LA to write about American crime. He chose the Cecil as his base. While staying there, he murdered 3 more women, all prostitutes, strangling them with their own bras. He left no remorse, no message, just bodies. It was as if the building whispered its intentions to him, and he obeyed. And Elisa, she didn't kill anyone. She didn't scream. She didn't leave a trace. She just disappeared. Her case remained open for months. Her parents filed a lawsuit against the hotel, claiming it had failed in its duty of care, that the rooftop should not have been accessible, that the staff should have intervened. The case was dismissed, and the world moved on, mostly, but the internet never forgot. The video remains one of the most unsettling pieces of real-life footage ever recorded, and the questions remain. Did Elisa Lam die from mental illness and accident, the tragic result of a manic episode gone unnoticed, or did the hotel take her? If you ask the people who've stayed there, who've heard the whispers, felt the presence, seen the shadows, they'll tell you the Cecil is no ordinary place. Some buildings have memories. This one has hunger. To this day, Elisa Lam's case is considered closed, officially, but unofficially, it's become something else entirely. A modern urban legend backed by undeniable truth. It's a cautionary tale, a whispered story told late at night, a reminder that not all horror is fiction. Some of it lives in plain sight. Some of it still stands tall in downtown LA, wrapped in stone and sorrow. In the aftermath of her discovery, the details of Elisa Lam's final hours became more than just police notes. They became puzzle pieces scattered across thousands of forums, documentaries, and dark corners of the internet. Everyone wanted to know what really happened in the time between that elevator footage and her death. The official records were chillingly vague. Hotel staff reported last seeing her on the morning of January 31st. A bookstore clerk nearby said Elisa had come in the day before to buy books and music for her family. She was cheerful, talkative. Nothing about her seemed off. She had plans, but something changed. That elevator video was captured the very night she vanished, possibly just hours before her death. Some online sleuth speculated that Elisa was playing the infamous elevator game, a ritual from Korean urban legend. The rules are strange and strict, pressing elevator buttons in a specific sequence, visiting floors in order, avoiding any strangers who enter. If done correctly, it is said to transport the player to another world. In the video, Elisa pressed multiple buttons, stepped in and out, and seemed to look for something or someone unseen. For believers, this was a sign she wasn't alone, even if the camera saw no one. But skeptics argued back. Elisa had bipolar disorder. Perhaps she was off her medication. Perhaps she was hallucinating. Her hands moved in strange gestures, as if conducting air or communicating silently. She hid in corners, peeked out like a child playing hide and seek, then stepped out and disappeared. These behaviors, doctors said, were consistent with a psychotic episode, yet if it was just mental illness, how did she get to the roof? This question remains the darkest riddle. The hotel's rooftop access was locked, with an alarm that triggered if anyone opened the door. The only way to avoid the alarm was through a staff key. No one reported the alarm going off. There were no prints, no footage of her climbing the final stairs. And the water tanks? Each stood over 10 feet tall, sealed with heavy lids, with no internal ladders. The maintenance worker who found her had to use a step stool to look inside. The idea that Elisa climbed up, opened the tank, undressed, entered the freezing water, and then shut the lid from inside, all without help or noise, seemed absurd. The coroner's office called it accidental drowning due to bipolar disorder. But the report came months later, and in that time rumors spread like infection. Some believed Elisa had been murdered, that someone followed her, frightened her, and forced her to the roof. Others believed in something stranger, that she had become a victim of the building itself. The Cecil, after all, wasn't just a hotel, it was a place soaked in energetic rot. One of those rare places where death lingers long after bodies are gone. Guests told stories of strange encounters. A cleaning lady once said she saw a shadow run past her on the 7th floor, but no one else was there. One man claimed to hear heavy breathing in the hallway at 3 a.m., even though he was alone. Another guest swore someone knocked on her door every night at 2:45, whispering her name, but when she opened it, there was nothing but an empty hall and a chill in the air. Locals had their own legends. The hotel, they said, was built on a vortex of violence, a place where bad things were drawn, where evil came to rest, a spiritual wound in the skin of the city. The longer Elisa's case remained unsolved, the more people believed she had been claimed by whatever lived inside that building. Online investigators began comparing her death to previous cases. One stood out, a 2005 film titled Dark Water. In it, a young girl dies in a water tank on the roof of an apartment building. The residents complain of black, foul-tasting water. The main character is a mother struggling with her mental health. The movie's events mirror Elisa's story so closely that it almost feels intentional, like a horrifying echo across reality. Then came another bizarre twist. In the midst of the investigation, LAPD officers wore protective gear, not because of a body, but because of a growing fear that Elisa had died of tuberculosis and the building was contaminated. Hundreds of homeless individuals lived nearby. A health scare emerged, but the test used by scientists to screen for TB in the area was called Lam Elisa, a real acronym, a real test. Lam lipoarabinomannan, ELISA, enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe the universe was screaming. None of this brought comfort to Elisa's family. Her parents flew to Los Angeles to claim her body. They had raised her in Vancouver, soft-spoken, loving, always worried about her fragile mental health. She had never gone anywhere alone before. This trip was her way of growing, of becoming her own person. Instead, they returned home with only a box of clothes and the silence of a city that had swallowed their daughter whole. The media frenzy died down. The hotel's name became infamous. Ghost hunters, true crime YouTubers, and Netflix producers swarmed the story. Shows like Ghost Adventures filmed episodes there. Podcasts dissected the elevator video. And in 2021, Netflix released a full documentary titled Crime Scene: The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel, reigniting the mystery for a new generation. But answers? None. Just more theories. Some still believe in the mundane truth, that Elisa suffered a breakdown, and the Cecil's dangerous infrastructure led to her death. Others believe in something else, something that doesn't fit into police reports or science, something that breathes in the walls of that building. The night Elisa Lam vanished, downtown Los Angeles lay under a sky that didn't care. The city breathed its usual noise, but somewhere inside the decaying walls of the Cecil Hotel, time slowed down. It was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that presses on your chest. Inside her fifth-floor room, Elisa might have been sitting on her bed, scrolling through her phone, or staring at the ceiling. No one knows. Her thoughts, if anyone could have heard them, were likely a mix of wonder and chaos. She had always written about her racing mind, her fight to feel normal, her love of places that made her feel small but safe. But that night, something began to unravel. She had visited a bookstore that day, a quiet local shop not far from the hotel. The owner remembered her as polite, excited, full of energy. She bought gifts for her family. Nothing about her seemed off, no panic, no paranoia. Just a girl exploring the city on her own. But by nightfall, something had changed. No one saw her leave again. The next time the world saw Elisa Lam was through that grainy, black and white elevator footage. She stepped inside, wearing the red hoodie she'd often been photographed in. She pressed several floor buttons. The door didn't close. She stepped to the side, peeked out, jumped back in, moved her hands strangely, like she was speaking without words. Her movements were nervous, unsure, sometimes frightened, sometimes oddly calm. Her gestures were like someone trying to communicate with something just beyond reach, and then she stepped out, disappeared. The elevator stayed open for a long time, too long, as if it too was waiting for something that never came. After that moment, Elisa was never seen alive again. No staff reported seeing her. No cameras caught her exiting the building. Her phone went silent. Her family grew frantic. When police arrived and searched her room, they found her clothes, toiletries, medication, everything but her. It was as if she'd vanished into the walls, and in a place like the Cecil, that felt entirely possible. Days passed, then weeks. Flyers were posted all over the city. Her story hit the news. Internet users started analyzing the elevator footage, frame by frame. Millions of people watched, paused, rewound. Some believed she was hiding from someone. Others said she was hallucinating. Some whispered about ghosts, about evil spirits that lingered in cursed buildings. The elevator's odd behavior, doors that didn't close, buttons that didn't work, became part of the myth. The more people looked, the fewer answers there were. The guests in the hotel, meanwhile, began to complain. The water from their sinks and showers was dark. The pressure was low. The taste was foul. One woman brushed her teeth and gagged. Another said her coffee turned black. Staff were called. A maintenance worker climbed to the roof, past the alarm door that strangely had never gone off, and opened one of the large water tanks. Inside floated the body of Elisa Lam, naked, pale, silent. Her clothes were nearby in the tank. Her phone was never found. Her body showed no bruises, no cuts, no signs of trauma. She hadn't been beaten. She hadn't fought back. There were no drugs in her system except for her prescription medicine, at low levels. No alcohol, no toxins, just stillness. Time passed, but the Cecil Hotel never truly let go of Elisa Lam. Her room was cleaned out. New guests came and went. The rooftop was sealed off. The hotel changed its name, but the walls never forgot. Something about that building remained heavy, like it had absorbed her final breath and kept it locked inside. Outside, the world went back to normal. The headlines faded. New tragedies took over. But Elisa never truly disappeared. Her story lingered in whispers, late-night conversations, and distant memories. People didn't see her as a person anymore, but as a mystery. And that became part of the horror, because Elisa Lam was never meant to be a symbol or a ghost story. She was just a young woman, a student, a daughter, a writer who shared her thoughts to feel less alone. She had dreams of walking through cities, feeling invisible, but alive. She wanted to understand herself. She wanted to heal. She wanted to be free. That's why she traveled alone. It was her act of courage, but the world didn't protect her. It stared at her. It obsessed. It consumed. And it forgot the human beneath the mystery. The hotel became a monument to this forgetting. Over the years, visitors showed up to take pictures of the elevator. Some claimed to hear voices in the halls. Some said they saw a girl standing barefoot, staring at the elevator. A few even tried pressing the same buttons she once had, as if tragedy could be repeated like a ritual, as if suffering was something to be relived. But there was something undeniably haunted about that place. Guests reported strange sensations, the feeling of being watched, of not being alone, even in a locked room. The air on the 5th floor always felt